All right, guys, enough dilly-dallying. Let's do this video. I noticed the other day, and that other day I mean like yesterday, that apparently after Matt Rife's cancellation, he talked to Jordan Peterson. Very interesting. Here's the thing. You know I'm not a big fan of cancel culture. I'm pretty adamantly against it. I don't know that I believe Matt Rife was canceled. First of all, he's had no actual, like, real negative impact. People have just been talking about him. But in my opinion, I don't think the joke was the problem as much as the intentionality of the joke. So for Matt, we watched like a thing on it. He has a large audience of women who like him, partly because he's an attractive guy, I guess, to women. You know, like girls like him. To me, he looks like Nick Birch from Big Mouth, Big Head. But he didn't like that because I guess he didn't feel like that was the correct audience to have. And so he intentionally made jokes in his latest special that would distance a female audience from him. And that's my problem. It's like, it's one thing to make edgy jokes. It's another thing to make edgy jokes with the intentionality of causing harm. You know what I mean? I like to think, and I'm always trying to do better, and I'm not a comedian, let's just be real, but that when I make an edgy joke, I'm doing it for fun. We're having a little bit of fun. We're having some silly fun. I'm not saying edgy stuff to make you upset. I'm saying it hoping that you'll laugh. I don't want to be disrespectful. I like to have fun. I like everybody to have fun. But it seems like he didn't want that. He had the intentionality of triggering his audience and then trying to pull in, I don't know, a Shane Gillis audience. I don't know. That's all I could think of. Like, so that's my real issue with it more than anything else. So let's watch him potentially go on a crybaby tour. Let's go.
It's a modern twist on an old joke. You know what I mean? It was a real circumstance that happened, an exaggerated instance that really happened. And I went, you know, this is a classic joke. Why not give my own personal mind?
I made the same joke that all trans people are bad, and they canceled me as well. I can't believe that. I can't believe it. The woke. I only make millions of dollars working for Daily Wire. Did you know they wanted to take away my license because I kept giving unsolicited advice about trans issues? I kept giving wrong medical advice. Like whatever he was doing. They said I had to take a training sensitivity course because I unironically told somebody to take their own life on Twitter. Could you believe that? Miss Piggy? Okay, that's crazy, brother.
Twist on it and move on. The joke's like a minute and 30 seconds and people were like, all he did was bash women. And I purposely did it first in the show to go, hey, just so you know, this is the kind of humor I like to tell. And if it's not for you, you are so more than welcome to turn off the TV right now.
Guy. What a based guy, dude. Trigger the girls. Trigger those girls. Get them. All right, enough. Relax.
Hello, everyone.
Hey,
I had the opportunity today to welcome and speak with one of the world's most outstanding current comedians. Young guy, 28 years old, Matt Rife, who's...
I don't know. I you know, there was a lot of reception for people that were like, hey, I'm a big Matt Rife fan. And I just felt like the special was lukewarm. It was lukewarm. And it's like, that's unfortunate. I'm not a big Matt Rife. I don't care either way. You know, I'm jealous of his hair. But I don't even think that anybody, like, I think it was probably a little bit of a stinker of a special. It's probably like a midline special, you know, which is rough.
Exploded onto the comedy scene in the last few years. After having put his time in the trenches, he's been working as a comedian in small clubs and so forth. He started when he was 15, so he put in his 10 years before really...
It sounds like comedy groomed him.
...becoming popular. He's been the subject of a relatively dedicated cancel campaign in recent weeks, and so we had a chance...
I mean, it's a bunch of TikTok women. How dedicated can they be? They can't even finish folding their laundry. Kind of true.
...to discuss that, to discuss his witty, fast, brave,
and
appropriate response.
Hey, guys, women... Women get beat. By the way, if you have a problem with it, here's a link to it. The website thing was a little funny, I'm not gonna lie. Well, how witty is that?
Response to that cancellation,
it was funny,
that sort of thing in more detail.
It was kind of funny.
And also to detail out the structure of his new tour and his plans for the future, and and
can't wait.
Why he's doing what he's doing and what the role of comedy is in the broader world.
Yeah.
So welcome to the conversation.
The broad world.
All right, so
JP admits in this podcast that he never even watched this special and thought Matt Rife just did crowd work. Well, my understanding is, I didn't watch it either. I saw the joke, but isn't that like a primary thing that he does is crowd work? Isn't that one of the things that bothered him? Is like he typically does crowd work, and he was kind of upset that, like, I don't know, he wanted to tell more jokes or something.
I've been planning this opening, which I don't usually do, because I like to do things spontaneously, but I have to get this one right. Okay, so you got to help me get this straight. Okay, so now you're a comedian and you got canceled for a domestic assault joke, and then in response to that, instead of apologizing like a good boy, you put up a joke ad site about special needs helmets to protect the people who are offended by you, and now
owning the libs, baby, owning them.
To get yourself out of trouble, you're going to come on my podcast.
I never said
your
that.
plan.
I was hoping it would make things way worse. I'm hoping we can drive sales to that very real website about the helmets.
Yes. Anyways, congratulations on that. I thought the joke was funny, risky, and funny, and I thought your response was dead on. Like, one of the things I've noticed is that people who are harassed by sensorial-minded nullwits almost always back down and apologize. And then my sense of that is that a mob comes after.
I mean, I don't think that you should instantaneously back down and apologize to some goosery, but he seems to be really playing into it.
Them first for whatever hypothetical sin they've committed, and then they apologize, and a second mob comes after them for that.
Exactly.
And then they lessen their own character by the false apology, and they embolden these idiot accusers. And so why did you decide, when this blew up around you, and I mean in some ways it's a tempest in a teapot, but when this blew up around you, why did you decide to take the strategy that you took? Why weren't you like racked with guilt and apologetic? And
because like, even if he was in the wrong, which I think he is, like, why, it's not like that big of a deal. Like, why even respond to it? It's like almost childish. The fact that he's playing into it so much is kind of like, that's more childish to me. Like, again, he intentionally tried to trigger his audience of girls, and then they got triggered, and then he's like, why are you triggered, liberal, you fucking idiot? And that's it. That's the whole I mean, that's the story. So
it's just comedy. I'm just doing what's funny to me. Bro. It's never any deeper than that, nor should it be for anybody. I'm saying things that my imagination drums up, that makes me happy, release endorphins in my head, that makes my life happier. And all I do is share those thoughts with other people in hopes that it makes their life easier.
Well, I've been watching what you do on your specials, and you're continually interacting with the audience, which, and correct me if I've got this wrong, I mean, a lot of the comedians that I've spoken to, they spend a lot of time preparing their sets and practicing.
But you're doing...
It seems to be something that's much more akin to spontaneous wit. And that's a dangerous thing to do, because you could easily be not funny.
Oh, high risk, high reward, yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's also that because you're doing that, you don't have a lot of time to exactly think through what you're going to say, right? I mean, if something strikes you as amusing.
Jordan's really glazing the hell out of Matt Rife. I mean, oh my God. You could have put this up on OnlyFans, dude. It would have been crazy.
You pretty much have to go for it. And if your head's full of censorship-related thoughts, you're going to be not funny in about 15 seconds.
Exactly.
So you have to let the intrusive thoughts win in comedy. You have to. What comes, if you're a naturally funny person, the first thing that comes to your mind should be the funniest thing to you most of the time.
Right. And it has to be the first thing. Yeah, you know, if you're writing a multiple choice test, by the way, if you second guess your intuition about the right answer, you're more likely to be wrong with the second guess. Yeah.
I guess. Sure. Okay.
True.
Yeah, that immediate response. Yeah, that immediate response tends to be better. Yeah, well, and it's a weird thing, because that thing that's comical inside you, that's providing you with the intuition for the jokes, it has to be in quick
timing's everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be a quick relationship with the audience. Yeah, timing is absolutely everything.
Absolutely,
you want to say
I agree
the
with
most
this.
pointed thing at exactly the right time. And so, what do you think, or maybe, I don't know if you've thought about it, what do you think is... Well, first of all, how broad scale do you think this rebellion against what you said actually is? How many people do you think are behind it? And why do you think it's become so...
it's mostly like, listen, here's the thing, is that I would say like 90 to 95% of them are just like people complaining on the internet that never watch Matt Rife ever. But the real world, the real impact is like, there's people who like this guy, and like he just tried to trigger them. Like, it's so weird. It's just like... It's like insulting to his audience. I don't know. I mean, listen, if this is the direction he wants to go, like, God bless him, do your thing. But I don't know. It just seems kind of like weird to make such a radical shift and like try again to have the intentionality of. If he never said that, if he was never like, I was trying to trigger my audience, then I would be like, oh, yeah, I don't care. But it just seems like, I mean, that's the goal. So it's just kind of like poopy doops, stinky butt. Peace out, guys. Fuck you.
Such a big deal.
It's probably a few dozen thousand, which sounds like a lot until you remember there's 8 billion people in the world.
Yeah.
And I would say 90% of the small majority that is upset with me doesn't go to comedy shows anyway, or wouldn't vibe with me as a person anyways, which is fine.
Right, they're probably not that funny. I watched a couple of them today on YouTube.
I can imagine.
Oh my God, yeah, I mean, they're the sort of people that you just want to What do you want for them? You want them to spend eternity.
Well, what offensive topic? What offensive joke is better, Matt Rife's domestic violence joke or Robert Downey Jr. doing blackface? I mean, the blackface is it was kind of funny. Let's be honest here.
Hell composed of nothing but people like them talking to them.
So Twitter.
Yeah,
exactly that.
Right.
But that's the thing is, it's like whether you enjoy what I do or not, you don't even have to know it exists. If I'm your problem, if you and I are face to face and you have a problem with my comedy that I tell that I admit to the world, right? If you just remove yourself from me, if you do something as simple as just turn around, there is an entire planet behind you for you to go explore and live the rest of your life. You don't ever have to think about me. You don't have to talk about me. I don't like screamo heavy metal music. Guess how often I think about it or talk about it? 0% of the time.
True. Well, I imagine screamo heavy metal music, again, doesn't intentionally try to trigger their audience to get a social media response. So.
Just remove yourself from the situation. I see no harm in trying to make people laugh as a general intention.
Yeah, well, I also don't understand exactly from a purely logical perspective what the people who are complaining exactly expect from you, because, and maybe it is that they have no sense of humor, and that's highly likely, or that they're doing something we can talk about, which is gaining some kind of benefit from their complaints, some virtue signaling. I really see that with the men.
I mean, there are some people that are virtue signaling. That's true, but there are some people who are genuinely upset. Thank you so much for the small gut, Priscilla.
Well, I know I really care a lot.
I know.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, I saw one TikTok video who was like, I have a wife and I found this severely disrespectful. I was like, okay, you cuck.
Yeah.
What?
Cucked by your wife.
Ever, dude.
Yeah. He probably thinks that's a form of foreplay.
Yeah. What do you want to get more pussy outside of your wife? Like, chill out. You're already married. She already respects you. Like, what do you?
Yeah.
Want
Well, I
from
used
me?
to see when I had.
I don't understand that point. What does that mean? Oh, wait, what? Don't you want to get more pussy out of your wife? Sure. I don't get it. Like, here's the thing. It sounds like a crybaby response from this guy, but it is the insinuation that you're already married, so you don't have to continue to respect your wife. I don't get it. The joke's just not funny. It's real world practical.
Demonstrations around me, which used to be more common than they are now, which is just as well. The worst people I ever saw at those demonstrations weren't the harridan women who were screeching like fishwives, but the men that were hypothetically there to support them. Man, I tell you, I couldn't even look at some of those guys without having a shudder run up my spine.
Why, are you getting horny from tough guys being around you? Getting horny from tough guys, huh? Your dick getting a little hard. What the hell is this? That's sexy as hell. What the fuck? All right.
There's almost nothing worse than a man who tries to worm himself in with a group of women by pretending to be more on their side
that is
than
true.
the women actually.
He is actually right about this. There are a surprising amount of men that will like pretend to be feminists in order to infiltrate like a group of women and like try to, seemingly take advantage of them. They got that modern warrior guy. There was this turtleneck emo guy. You got a lot of them. I've seen so many of these virtue signaling fuckers. They're not wrong about that.
They are, when their actual motivation is to use that. What was that? Gad Saad, the evolutionary psychologist who works at Concordia, he called that the sneaky fucker a routine. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's actually a phrase from evolutionary biology. I'll tell you a funny story that goes along with that. Okay. This is hilarious.
How do you not know that?
And so telling. So primatologists who studied orangutans figured out a long time ago that there are two variant male types of orangutan.
All right, there's the boy males and the girl males.
Okay, so
I'm assuming that's where we're going.
Orangutans tend to hang around in trees; they're arboreal. Yeah. But the males who become dominant,
they don't hang out in trees. That's gay.
Like a linebacker in football, and they have these big fat pads around their face that are circular. They get so large they can't really go in trees anymore.
Those fat fucks! Holy, I knew it. Being fat is fucking alpha. Being fat is alpha male. That's alpha. I knew it.
And the females come to them. But
they do, baby. Give them that blaster. Woo!
Males in the vicinity for.
Papa God, do you think if it wasn't a true story, it wouldn't? If it wasn't, do you think if it wasn't based on a true story, the reaction would be different? No, of course not. I don't think that dude. If you kill me, I'm gonna literally cry. I don't think that the true or fakeness of the story is even relevant. I don't think that anybody cares. Like, I don't think that he explicitly, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, did he explicitly say in his special, this is a real story? Usually people kind of just tell stories and they fudge them a little bit. They sensationalize them a little bit. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I don't think it has unless the woman has come out and said, that was me. This is fucked up. My boyfriend beat the fuck out of me because of that. You know what I mean? Unless that happens, I don't really see that. So
who the primatologists thought were adolescents for a very long time because they look like adolescent males and they hang around in the trees. But they turn out to be, many of them, fully mature males whose development into the linebacker is forestalled by the fact that they're not at the top of the pecking order. Right. And so their strategy is sneaky.
Are you saying that they didn't develop because they're not at the top of the pecking order? That seems silly. It sounds more like they probably would genetically didn't develop in general. And then that was what made, like, I don't know, whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Rape.
Jesus.
Right.
What?
So it doesn't take much of an imagination to map.
What'd you say?
Their strategy is sneaky rape.
What the fuck?
Jesus.
Right. So it doesn't take much of an
What the hell? I wasn't expecting that. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. That's horrible. Oh my God. What the hell? That's just wild, brother. I mean, I believe it, but Jesus.
imagination to map that onto the, you know, the feminist male who's so on the side of women. That,
all right. Well, some guys just think women deserve rights. You know, like, not all of them are bad. Jesus Christ.
Well, he gets to be the friend who can entice some poor girl into bed when she's at her lowest point.
So it's almost like their own insecurity and lack of manhood.
It's almost like everybody who criticizes Matt Rife is a rapist. Oh. Everybody who criticized Matt Rife is a rapist. That's the insinuation here, just to be clear. Any man that criticized Matt Rife is incredible stuff.
Manhood probably isn't the best word to use, but it stunts their own evolution.
It requires that they take a different pathway to mating success.
Okay, so I want to be clear here. It sounds like the insinuation is that there are two different types of orangutans. There are the dominant ones, and then there are the not dominant males. Two different types of males. It sounds like what Jordan is saying is that there's a pathway in life that the non-dominant males take that makes them non-dominant and smaller, which I just don't think so. It's more likely, just based on, I don't know, common sense, that these males were just less dominant in general, and that like their biology is what made them not at the higher up on the food chain. Does that make sense? Because I'm not really buying that, like, oh, something happened in life and they just became cucks. Like, what did they have too many bananas, soy bananas? Like, what is the implication? I don't get it.
You can't use dominance. Right.
So pathetic.
Yeah. So why did you decide to come on my podcast?
Well, you know, Jordan, I love jacking off in front of you.
Huge fan, man.
I find
you. Listen,
huge
you and I have
fan,
never met.
dude.
I've
never met.
I'll be truthfully honest. I've never
even heard
done
of you.
extensive research into everything you've done, but I find.
Hey, I'm a huge fan. I don't really know anything about you, but I'm a huge fucking fan. Me too, dude. I love it. Love this.
I need to be a very kind man and very well spoken, and someone who stands on their morals and
stands on your
the
morals,
realism
baby.
of society today. And I think that is incredibly rare, and I just highly appreciate you.
I'm literally, dude. This guy's sucking him off hard as hell. Oh, come on, stop attacking me, dude. Stop. I'm a white male. Stop attacking me. Really sucking them off.
Well, thank you. I wasn't fishing for compliments, but I do appreciate the fact that they emerged. Well, I'm curious partly too because I think it's fair to say that your primary fan base is women. I mean, I'm not certain of that, but it is the case. Okay, and is it almost always women that you interact with in the crowd?
No, not at all. It's total luck of the draw, whatever happens. I mean, women yell out the most for sure. Like they'll heckle the most, so that will draw more adamant crowd work, like that I didn't necessarily intend on doing. But overall, no, it's just luck.
Is that something that's particularly characteristic of your shows? Because I would think,
because that's not. Well, I've kind of created my own crowd work monster in a way. A friend of mine put this in perspective for me.
Yeah.
If I got popular from doing crowd work, which was a very specific strategy, I only post my crowd work because I don't feel like burning through material. Comics build for minimum a year, 2, 3 years to build an hour-long show, right? I would feel like a total piece of shit if I let you pay money to come see the exact same material you just saw for free online. So crowd work being a very unique circumstance that really isn't to be duplicated at any other show that you do, because you're not going to meet the same person who's been to the same.
I just don't believe this. Like, I believe he does crowd work, but I don't believe that he. Like, I don't. So it seems like a weird go. I don't post my actual material. I only post my crowd. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but also I feel like what I'm getting at is this. I think he just majority does crowd work, and that's what people know him for, and he's trying to distance himself from that. So he's trying to make it seem like he doesn't just do a lot of crowd work, and that he does other types of work. Okay, whatever. I don't know why I'm scrutinizing it.
Has the same story to tell, right? So this is a very unique thing that you can share, and it doesn't burn through any of your material at all.
All right.
So that's why you've been making the specials on YouTube out of crowd work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because you can make them permanent, and you said it doesn't interfere.
Or maybe he just does mostly crowd work, and he's just weirdly lying about this one. I don't know. Who knows?
With the novelty of a prepared show.
Yes.
So you do prepared material as well.
Yeah, I have 2 full specials on YouTube that are fully
so
material.
I've only seen the crowd work. Okay.
Oh, you watched the red flags?
Yeah.
I specifically did that special because I was getting popular for doing red flag crowd work just on TikTok, and it got so bad to the point where I'd be in the middle of working on material, and people would be yelling out like, "Do red flags," or just yelling out like flip flops or what.
I'm sure that's annoying. I can understand that.
Mom was like yelling out their own red flags without any context.
So it sounds like he blew up on TikTok, and then people on TikTok were being annoying to him. Okay, I mean, I get it. Okay.
At all. So I was like, fine, I'm gonna do one special at the biggest red flag city there is, Miami, at the Miami Improv, and then that's like the final statement closing the chapter on my red flag crowd work. Now I don't do it anymore. Now there's, I think this special is like 50 minutes long of me just doing full crowd work for 50 minutes with the people in Miami, and it was a lot of fun. I was happy to close the chapter though.
Okay, so why did you close it, and why were you happy to close it?
Why like completely close that? Like, I don't understand why you would just completely give up that. Is that what really happened? Is that he mostly does crowd work, and then he decided to do an entire special not doing crowd work, and it's just not very good? Is that what it was?
Because it does ruin the show when people yell out. I wanted to go, okay, I know you like this thing I do, so here's that. Now you have that final product. I did this specifically for you guys. Now let me grow to do the kind of comedy I want to do. And I'm still growing and I'm still learning. I'm 28 years old. Most comics that are at the top of their game today probably just started at the age I'm at right now. So I mean, I have a lot of learning and growth to do.
Right. How long have you been doing comedy professionally?
12 and a half years.
So since you were 16?
15, yeah.
15.
Whoa.
Were you funny before that?
Yeah. I was always downtown making my friends and family and laugh. I didn't know comedy was
I used to make fart jokes.
a career or even a job until I was about 14.
Crazy.
And I kind of discovered who like Dane Cook and Dave Chappelle were. And those guys were at the pinnacle of comedy at that time. So I just learned, I studied them, fell in love with the art form, and I started doing open mics when I was 15 after school on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And
Dane Cook. I never liked Dane Cook, so
everything just kind of snowballed. And nobody in my family's ever been to college, so there was no pressure to do anything after high school. Everyone in my hometown kind of does the exact same thing. They just work at like
How big is your hometown?
About 1,200 people.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know. I come from like Long Island. It's just a big place. I think that we have like enough people to be our own state. How many people on Long Island? 7.6 million. Small town.
Stoplight that could have easily been a 4-way stop.
Right.
Never any traffic there at all.
Yeah, but
hey, Pop, it's my first stream. I love your vids. Thanks, brother. How is it? You're actually your first stream, or you memeing me?
Of attainment to have at least one light in town.
Of course.
Yeah. I came from a little town in northern Alberta. It had about 2,500 people, and
yes,
it was a big deal when we got our first stoplight, which was like utterly unnecessary.
They just got a Dollar General on the outskirts.
I hate stoplights. I hate safety. That's cringe as hell, dude. What are you even doing that for?
Outskirts of town, and everyone's like, "We got a new grocery store." Like they are loving it.
Yeah.
It's a very simple town. Though.
Yeah. I can remember too that when the Kentucky Fried Chicken came to town, that was also a big deal.
When you got a cake,
I can see that, but I feel like KFC has dwindled in quality. That's why I'm more of a Popeyes fan. I've been going to Popeyes a lot more. I feel like it's better.
That's so funny. In hindsight, it's one of those places growing up, you go, oh, this is so boring, can't wait to get out of here. But looking back, I had such a wonderful childhood. Even going back now, I went back maybe a couple of months ago because I had some
What's
shows.
The name of the town?
It's called North Lewisburg, Ohio. It's a very, very small town. About Marysville, Ohio is the closest city to it, I suppose. And I was doing shows not far from there and had to drive past it for a tour like 2 months ago, and I stopped through there. Nothing had changed. And I thought that was beautiful. Like I live in LA now and I tour constantly, but people get so wrapped up into what they think the rest of the world is actually talking about, actually cares about, when it's not true at all. I saw kids riding their bikes and running around playing outside when I was driving through town. I haven't seen that in years. People weren't on their phones. Even people at the gas station when we stopped in, the workers in there were talking, hanging out. Nobody was just on their phones scrolling. We become so detached from the rest of the world when we live in certain environments.
That's a level of truth to that. Sure, I agree with that.
How long have you lived in LA?
It'll be 11 years in January.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after I graduated high school early at 17, and I moved out and just couch surfed for the first year and a half.
Okay, so what did you do in LA? Okay, so first of all, you said you started doing open mics when you were about 15. Where?
The Columbus Funny Bone in Columbus, Ohio. I went on the Comedy Club's website when I kind of figured out open mics were the thing to start with. I don't remember how I found that out. I remember going to their website, finding out it's 21 and up, as most comedy clubs are due to liquor license. And the owner's email was on there. And like a naive kid, I just emailed the owner. I was like, hey, this is my name. This is how old I am. I know I'm supposed to be 21 and up, but if I have
and I want to tell DV jokes, baby.
Like a parent guardian with me, could I come in to try the open mic? And any rational businessman would say, no, I'm not going to risk my liquor license for some kid to come in here and tell jokes. Like,
would that risk your liquor license though? Like, it only would risk it if you give the liquor to a kid, right?
Possibly come out of that. But for some odd reason, he said yes, and it allowed me an opportunity to go and practice.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I imagine it's not like that uncommon for them to have somebody under 21 come to the comedy club. I mean, you're thinking like 14. I'm thinking like 20. Like, oh yeah, you know that like I don't think it's that. It's not like this horrible business move or anything. But okay.
And enjoy this new thing.
It just doesn't seem like this miraculous thing, like this twist of fate. It just seems normal. Like, yeah, we can have people under 21 come in. You just can't drink, and we're gonna make sure that you don't drink. Okay.
I was just doing for fun.
Especially if it's like one guy. They just for the bartenders. Hey, don't let that one guy have a drink. Oh. Okay, you got it, boss.
No idea anything like this could ever happen to me. It was just something I was doing for fun to like make my grandpa laugh.
And did you make your grandpa laugh?
Oh my God, he was my #1 fan. I miss him every single day.
Oh yes. So did you have a good time in Columbus doing this?
I did, but it's most Midwestern towns. There's a ceiling, you know, and if you have bigger dreams, you have to escape. You have to go see what else is out there. So
tell me how your career progressed from Columbus. How many shows did you do at Columbus? What was the arc of your career?
So I started when I was 15, and then I got a manager at a comedy club in Atlanta. Over Twitter, believe it or not.
I believe it. It's hard to believe, but I believe it.
It's good for something.
I know, make or break you.
That's like the one time Twitter has been good for something.
Exactly. Well, this is
good
also
for getting canceled. Actually, if you want to get canceled, Twitter's excellent
only its
for
use.
That. Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, I don't really use Twitter, but if I do, I just jack off. That's all I do. I just jack off to it. I feel like we really gotta understand that if I feel like if they got rid of that ability to do that on Twitter, then Twitter would just disappear. Because really, that's like 95%. That's what they did with that other website, Tumblr. Once they got rid of that stuff on there, everybody was like, no thanks. No thank you anymore. We don't need that. You really be surprised. I feel like the jack-off subsidy is incredible. It really is. It's an incredible thing. I mean, I wonder how many people are really just funding how many different websites just by jerking off to it.
That is its primary use.
What else is it? It's just negativity. It's the worst app. People who thrive on Twitter rarely do well in life. It's so bad. But this was when Twitter was kind of brand new. So what would happen was comics that I was a fan of would come through the state of Ohio, like Cleveland, Toledo, Dayton, Cincinnati, or Columbus. And this was a time where Twitter was so new, you could access anybody.
So I got my blood taken at the doctor today, and it just hurt taking it off. It gave me a boo-boo taking it off.
Like, this was a time when like Ashton Kutcher was like the only person to have like 1 million followers on there. Like most celebrities had maybe 10,000 followers on there. You could tweet to somebody and they would see it and they would respond. So I would tweet to favorite comics of mine when they were coming through the state of Ohio. And I'd be like, hey, I'm a big fan. I'm a kid. Can I do a guest spot?
Hey, I'm a big fan. I'm a kid. And they're like, yes. I'm a big fan, Kevin Spacey. I'm a kid. I'm a boy. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck yeah. I'll have you meet up with me right now. Fuck yeah.
Your show. And some would say no. Some would thankfully say yes.
So who gave you an early opportunity?
D.L. Hughley actually gave me my first ever guest spot, which was so funny.
Really?
When I was 15 years old, my extent of my D.L. Hughley knowledge was just Soul Plane, where he played a bathroom attendant.
Fucking
His smallest
D.L.
credit to date has to be. I had no.
That's crazy. Good for him. I remember D.L. Hughley. I used to watch BET sometimes, or Channel 9, I think, had it on, like UPN or something. Was that it? They had some black stuff on there. It's pretty cool. Wayne's Brothers. Sometimes Disney Channel. Sister. Was that Disney? I don't even know. Sister. How do you think that they did all that? How do you think that they did that great CGI work on Sister? You know, like, how do you do that? How do you, like, back then, how do you make two of the same girl? You know, that's fucking crazy. It's impressive almost. You know, it really is very impressive. I thought it was two people. You would have never known. But they did the same thing like they did in Herbert. It was Lindsay Lohan, I think it's called. Fucking crazy.
No realization that he was
what's up, Red
one of the kings of comedy, like one of the greatest to ever do it and go on one of the most famous tours of all time. But he was so kind to me. He gave me my first guest spot. My second guest spot was Finesse Mitchell, and then it was Ralphie May, was a brother of mine. He's one that really helped me out in my younger years. But through Twitter, there was this comedy club owner in Atlanta who...
Did Ralphie May pass away? I remember Ralphie May. He was kind of funny. Did he pass away? Yeah, he did. He passed away in 2017, it looks like. I wonder what he died of. I think it was obesity. Yeah, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. Yep.
Knew DL for a very long time. And he saw DL Hughley and I just going back and forth, joking back and forth with each other on Twitter. He reached out. My mom and I drove down from Ohio to Atlanta. It's like a 9-hour drive.
Tia and Tamara are two different people. I was fucking kidding, dude. Did you believe me, dude?
To come perform at his club for a weekend. Went there. We hit it off.
Oh, it's Freaky Friday. No, she's not a twin in Freaky Friday. I thought she had a movie where is it Freaky Friday? I thought there was 2 movies where she's like, oh, I'm a rich girl. And the other one's like, I'm the opposite. And it's like, whoa, what a freaky duo. What an unexpected freaky turn of event. What a duplicate. Is that what it's called? Duplicate? I don't know.
Right. Well, he explained to me the things he wanted to do for my career, and I didn't know any better. So I was like, yeah, however you want to help. And my mom was also like, yeah, whatever keeps him off drugs, I guess. Yeah. So
did that work? Did it keep you off drugs?
Until like my early 20s.
Then I did some cool ones, like the weeds. I did some of the weed.
That's probably better. That's better time to start than like 12.
Job. Yeah, exactly. I'm from Ohio. I'm lucky I didn't brush my teeth with fentanyl growing up. It was bad.
True.
My hometown was
very true, though. He's right.
So trashy.
What the hell? I thought my phone was ringing.
Diversify your savings with physical precious metals while stockpiling silver in your home safe.
Oh my God. No, thank you. That's crazy though, brother. All right, guys, if you want to do that, text Jordan to 989898 to claim your eligibility to stockpile precious silvers.
So he finds me on Twitter. We go down
Parent
there.
Trap.
We hit it
Parent Trap. Thank you. Somebody knew.
And he offers me to come down there the summer between my junior and senior year of high school. And I go down there and I live on a comics couch for 3 months, my entire summer break. I go down there and I'm doing 9 to 11 shows a week. I'm going to the malls. I'm passing out
free. Is that a 9/11 joke, dude? Come on, that's fucked up.
Tickets. I'm hanging posters up to promote shows. I'm going in to the comedy club at 3 p.m. to like practice my set while he throws tennis balls at me and honks horns and jingles. Anything he can do to distract me.
Oh yeah,
a very Mr. Miyagi.
That was part of the training regimen.
Exactly. And I think to this day, I think it helps me keep my composure in the pocket. Like I'm not thrown for a loop when somebody yells out something.
Typical exposure therapy from a psychological perspective. Right?
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Face what you're afraid of. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So how did he know to do that? Do you think that's smart?
I'm not sure. He's a fantastic guy. His name's Gary Abdo. He's very prominent in the comedy community. He's helped out a lot of people starting out their career. Like he was very prominent in Chappelle's early years. He was like a late teenager, Earthquake.
Right. So he's probably seen people thrown by hecklers and so forth and by trouble because you can't get knocked out of your groove.
Well, his comedy club down there was called Uptown Comedy Corner, and it was notoriously known as like one of the harshest comedy clubs in the country. It was a tough environment. Like they either loved you or they would boo you off stage.
Oh yeah.
So for me to go in there as a kid,
Jordan's like, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I'm a fucking aficionado.
You have the novelty of like he's a kid, give him a chance.
Right.
But
only so far.
Yeah, so you got to get them in the first couple of minutes. Otherwise, they're not going to sit there and watch you do 5 or 10 minutes. They don't have that patience in them. So I go down there and I get trained in like one of the harshest environments possible. And in doing that, I meet more comics who are coming through the club. I would pretty much open for like anybody that came through the club down there. I met a lot of comics who lived out of LA. So then when I went back to high school for my senior year, I knew I didn't want to go to college. I knew comedy was what I wanted to do. So I flew out to Los Angeles and I took the CHESP, the California Proficiency Exam, which in certain states, it's kind of like college where you have to have a certain amount of credits to graduate high school. The CHESP is essentially a test you can take at any time that basically tests you out of high school. You've learned everything you need to learn.
Oh, really? Oh, yes. That's a great option.
Fantastic. So I flew out there, took the test, came back.
Sorry, I didn't know the screen was black. Relax, it's okay. All you missed is these guys talking for fucking through like a minute. Chill out.
Wait like 2 weeks for my results, but I had a good feeling about it. So I was just going to school for 2 weeks and just like sleeping throughout class. I wouldn't do any of the work. I wouldn't take any of the tests.
How old were you at that point?
I just turned 17. Maybe I just turned 17. I was maybe still 16.
And so that's after you came back from LA?
Yes.
Right.
We came back from
taking... Maybe this guy interviewing Jordan's video. Maybe. God doesn't like it. I don't know, dude. That's possible. It's also possible that my computer's a little old. Those are both possibilities.
The test, waiting for the results. Got the results back at like the first week of January, moved out to my friend Eric Griffin's couch 2 weeks after that. So I was about like 4 or 5 months early from graduating high school, moved out there, lived on his couch for the first couple of months. Then my manager at the time, his son graduated film school. He moved out to Los Angeles. I stayed on his couch.
Oh, they did a little gay for pay for money. Okay, I see where this is going. This is kind of a hot deal.
Next year, and I was just going to comedy clubs every single night. I would go and just hang out. Some of them wouldn't even let me hang out inside until finally people would vouch for me. People wouldn't show up on the lineup. And somebody was like, well,
oh, yeah, that's my boy, Matt Rife. I love that guy. He's a handsome guy. It's me, DL Hughley. Do I sound like a black guy? Oh, trick question. Black guys sound the same as white guys. Racist.
All right, so you're hanging around enough to get your opportunity.
Exactly. But funny enough, sometimes I would get the opportunity to go on stage and I literally couldn't step foot in the comedy club until they're like announcing, and Matt Rife. And then I would have to run through into the comedy club, go on stage, and leave immediately after because I wasn't 21. So they still had to abide by like their own rules in a very loophole way. And in doing that, I just kind of stayed consistent in the scene. I was getting more and more prominent.
That sounds more like they're fucking I'm pretty sure you can have a liquor license with people under 21 in there. So they just must not trust their bartenders.
Stage time, I started to book smaller and smaller, turning into larger TV appearances, which was some Disney stuff that led to a bunch of MTV stuff. And then after I left all my MTV stuff, I just became really dedicated to stand up and transferring over to acting and producing and developing and all that kind of stuff.
So what did you do for MTV?
My first thing I did on there was Wild 'N Out. I did
You did Fresh Off the Boat. What the fuck is Fresh Off the Boat? It sounds racist. You guys remember Coming to America with Eddie Murphy? I loved that movie when I was a kid. But now I hate it. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Seasons of that. I was like the youngest cast member. It was right after Pete Davidson left there to go do SNL. They needed a white guy. And I happened to fit like that exact mold. Went on there, learned so
that's
much.
a very strange diversity.
Was this guy on SNL? I didn't even know. I don't even watch SNL, dude. They got rid of my boy Shane McGillis. Shane Gillis. Is it McGillis? It looks like it could be.
Diversity hire.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, yeah. We're short of white guys. Yeah, let's call Matt.
Never hear it anymore.
No, that's not a likely diversity hire.
But it could not have been a better learning experience.
All right, relax, Matt. I mean, fuck Matt. Jordan, relax, Jordan. Jordan had to make sure that you knew that white people are fucking oppressed. Like, believe it or not, they still do want white people for some things to fulfill a particular demographic. I don't know if you guys know this. White people love other white people. Me too. Just like black people love other black people. It's like, what a crazy hot take. So, like, hey, I needed like a white edgy guy like Pete Davidson. Oh no, they'd never do that. They would never fucking do that. It's like, Gordon, relax. Like, not everybody's a victim. It's okay.
It's because I was a very insecure, shy kid, and I was going on a show with comics. This was the revamp of Wild 'N Out. This was after Kevin Hart, D. Ray Davis, Corey Holcomb, all these amazing Cat Williams, all these fantastic comics had left the show.
Throwing out a lot of black guys. I wonder if he's looking for that black audience. I wonder if he's trying to be like, what's that one comedian? That white guy. He's a white guy. He did the Impulsive podcast or something, but they pulled it down. Andrew Schultz, I think of that. Yeah, it seems like he's pretty cool with the black people. He's pretty cool with the black audience. It sounds like this guy's like looking for a black audience. He's like, hey, he's a bunch of black guys. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, they rebooted it. But a lot of comics I knew from the Atlanta scene who were monsters. Carlos Miller, DC Young Fly, Chico Bean.
All those names do sound black, just saying.
Killers on stage, and I had to compete with them, and I knew I could.
I'm just wondering here. Let me see something. How many black people are in Ohio? 1.4 million. Wow, that's a lot. How many non-black people are in Ohio? Oh wow, so 9 million. Okay, so there's a pretty proportionate audience there. Okay.
Couldn't, but I at least had to hold my ground. And in doing that, I just went through the gauntlet over there. Like everyone at that show turned me into a man with confidence on stage, and I'm so grateful for that. I can't imagine I would have gotten that experience anywhere else. So I did a few seasons on the show, and the show was fun. I enjoyed my experience on there, but I had a very niche role to play. Every joke I said had to be about me being the white guy on the show. If I ever tried to step out,
constrained.
Yes. Anytime I try to step out of it, people will be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I thought I was going to do like a clever joke." And they're like, "No, do the thing you're here to do." And although I enjoyed it and I had built a little bit of a name for myself, I was like, "This isn't."
Well, that's an interesting set of constraints, right? I mean, it's a very tight set of constraints, and one of the facts that emerges from the literature on creativity is that you tend to get creative responses when people are constrained very severely. Best example I know of that is, so there's a Japanese poetry form known as haiku, which has very strict rules.
Yeah.
Well, MIT.
What is it, like 737? What is the haiku? What is a haiku? I remember that's from Samurai Jack. Haiku rules. What was it? 3 lines, 5 syllables, 7, and they can't rhyme. Okay, cool.
Nerds set up a website decades ago now that was devoted to haiku that could only be about the luncheon meat spam. And there's like 50,000 haikus. There's literally 50,000 haikus online in the online haiku spam archive. And they're hilarious, but partly they're hilarious because...
I do love spam, unironically.
Well, it's bad enough that you have to just do haiku because that's like pointless and constraining to begin with. But then to restrict it even further...
So specific.
Well, it forces a kind of wit. And so I can imagine that having the constraint of only being able to make jokes about being the white guy must have also been one of the things that sharpened your wit.
I think so too.
I guess. Okay.
But I think, unless I'm misconstruing this, I think that's probably why crowd work works the best for me because I'm very constrained. Like I have to answer what they're saying to me with a funny response in association with what they're talking about. I don't have vast options. It has to be now and it has to be what they're saying.
Okay, so you said that you were a shy kid, and obviously the last thing in some ways that you would expect a shy kid to be doing is to be doing online stand-up comedy in front of live audiences. And then
well, they call that exposure therapy, Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before. I don't know if you are familiar with any mental health stuff, but
taping that's specifically devoted to crowd work, because I can't actually imagine a situation, maybe if you threw someone on stage and said like sing naked, that would be about the equivalent
you
of
think race humor is the cheap way to get popular? My question is, why the fuck do you watch me? I feel like that's what I do. I do a good amount of race humor. I'm always having it's funny sometimes. Yeah. Convenient, dude. Convenient that you'd say that. I'm babbling until I can get my headphones back on. Sorry.
Inducing self-consciousness. So how did you get to the point where, what did you have to do so that your shyness was no longer making you self-conscious on stage? And
I feel like he probably wasn't really that self-conscious. I feel like he probably had a typical experience and he's just like hamming it up a little bit. I mean, like I have like a little bit of, I'm a little self-conscious sometimes, but like you see, I'm fucking stream every day. I'm a fine public speaker. Like the Boy Scouts actually made me a pretty good public speaker. So
how is it that you orient yourself towards the audience so you don't become self-conscious when you're now you'll become self-conscious because we're dealing
not at all.
So I'm curious about how you keep yourself not focusing on whether or not you're being funny, for example, when you're interacting with the audience.
It's purely confidence, whether it's real or fake confidence. I think when I was younger, I did develop a fake confidence.
Yeah, right.
I was bullied a lot in high school. Not like getting shoved into lockers, but to the point where I wasn't in anybody's group. I was class clown. I was the butt of a lot of people's jokes, which...
Okay. I mean, if you weren't friends with a lot of people and you were a bad class clown, or he's just like, well, okay, whatever. I just don't know if I didn't really have any friends. Okay.
Didn't hurt, at least I tell myself, but I think that's where you learn to deflect, right? You have two options in a moment when somebody makes a joke.
None of this sounds genuine. Is it just me? I don't think I believe any of this. Like, I'm sure he was funny and he was a class clown. I was nobody's friend. Everybody would be the butt of the joke. Okay.
Either laugh along and play into it and go with it, or you can...
This guy, he seems like a dude who's like kind of funny, but he's never really like had an issue in life. But he's like pretending that he's like, yeah, everybody was so mean to me, but I just laughed it off.
Be embarrassed and everybody
my
sees
entire
it.
audience is girls because I'm just so naturally attractive, which is good for you, but it's just like none of this really adds up to me.
Embarrassed, which is even more embarrassing.
Yeah, right. That just invites further abuse. Yeah.
So I think growing up, I developed this sense of false confidence where I went, hey, if I also make fun of myself and I get in on your guys' joke, it won't hurt or people can't tell.
So why
people
false,
think it doesn't bother me.
Because obviously, so I'm going to challenge your supposition that was false. Well, because the thing about being funny is that if you're false, you're not funny. And if you're not funny and you're being bullied, you're just going to get bullied worse. So you were obviously, it seems like you were able to generate responses that were witty and that were funny.
But purely a defense mechanism, I think. It wasn't for the point of like, oh, I hope I get a good joke off here. I think it was, I have to deflect them saying a mean thing with me saying a funny thing.
Right, but so I would say that's actually a very sophisticated defense, because I mean, one of the things that people do, guys do this particular...
Just jacking this guy off, just jacking his penis right off, dude. He's crazy.
And
like gonna fall off.
Working class jobs is they'll throw pointed barbs at each other to see, are you the sort of person who gets irritated and flies off the handle and can't be trusted in a crisis? Or are you the sort of person that can roll with a joke and maybe even say something funny? And so I wouldn't say that the ability to do that is false. I would say that's it's more sophisticated form of defense than physical aggression. I mean, physical aggression can be useful, but there isn't a more sophisticated way of parrying like a pointed remark than to turn it into something that's funny and to toss it back.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was
Jordan, I want you to suck me off so hard right now, Jordan. I want you to suck my dick off. Where the fuck is this guy?
Subconscious skill set. I had no idea until right now, apparently, what I was even doing. So, A, thank you. And B, I think it starts then, and then the longer you do stand up, you realize you're funny. Eventually, you do realize you're funny. Chris Rock talks about this all the time when he talks about when comedians can't tell a joke on stage and it doesn't work. After a certain point, you know you're funny. You're just not saying your joke correctly to where the audience perceives it the way.
I get that. Sometimes you miss the mark on a joke. That never happens with me, of course. I'm always popping my jokes perfectly. Nobody's ever given me any criticism for any jokes or the way I've presented them. So
you want them to perceive.
Right, so you don't experience moments of global doubt.
Exactly.
It's localized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think after a while...
Johnson super chatted $5.
What up?
Hey Papa Gut, do you think you'd ever want to cover the White Bowser? He's genuinely one of creepiest lol cows of this year.
I gotta be honest with you, but I don't know who the fuck that is. Maybe if you want to send me something. What, you got a video recommendation in mind? Come here, pussy. Oh, dude, come on.
Wow, I mean, after doing comedy for 12
Who the fuck's
years
my
and having
allies
had shows
that have
of
also died?
uproarious laughter and standing ovations, you know you're capable of being funny and putting on a good show.
Right, right.
So I think that confidence is paired with the control of an audience. When you're on stage with a microphone, people are there to watch and listen to you.
They're also hoping you'll be funny, except for the odd troll. So they're on your, they could be on your side.
Yes, and then once people see how you can handle that kind of power, that you can be funny, that you can shut somebody down, I think people are more apt to take the seat and just go, okay, let me just see what he does.
Right, right. Yeah. They're going to give you more of the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
they're going to masturbate you. Yeah, I feel that, brother.
And it's tricky too, responding to a crowd like that too, because you have to be funny. Well, and this is, I suppose, in some ways why you've gotten into trouble. You have to be funny. You have to be funny, but you can't be too mean, right? You can't hit a fly with a sledgehammer. Your response has to.
I can. I'm fucking dope like that. I'm fast like that, dude. Maybe you can't, pussy, but I fucking can, motherfucker.
Be proportionate.
Yes.
I mean, you up the ante a little bit. That's my presumption. You up the ante a little bit when someone says something smart, but you don't come out with like the long knives and hack someone to bits.
Of course.
Right?
Well, I mean, you could argue that that's what he did. No, you could argue that that's where he's getting his criticism from. Hey, thank you so much for the membership, for the large God. Thank you. You could argue that's where the criticism comes from, though. No, like, is the fact that he seems to be like trying to go to this type of response. Like, isn't that like a big part of the criticism?
Because that'll turn them again. Because first of all, you can actually hurt someone publicly by doing that, which is not good if it's not necessary. And second, you could easily turn the audience against you. Well, this is also, again, why I think it's so unfair that comedians in particular face this kind of absurd cancellation pressure, because the line that a good comic is walking on is so damn thin. You have to be playing with disaster in order to be funny, right? The things you say, this is one of the things I used to really like about Sarah Silverman, because she would say, you could see it.
I like Sarah Silverman. She had such a funny joke that always like resonates with me. And I'll tell it sometimes, honestly. It's I remember, I think it was her show, Sarah Silverman show, and there was this one bit where a cop's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And she's like, yeah, because you got C's in high school. And I don't know why that just made me laugh so much. It was just like, yeah, kind of true, dude. I have a friend who's a cop, and he's a fucking idiot. Fuck you, Mike. No, I'm just kidding. He looks like a goddamn cop, though. It's wild. But no, all jokes aside, it's just like funny how it works out.
You could see that she'd be listening to someone and some absolutely horrible thought would come into her mind. And then she'd have the guts to lay it out, even though it was like rude and unacceptable beyond belief.
Well, I think comedy is purely down to intent. When people are bullying you, like when high schoolers are making fun of something about you, it's a totally different intent. Even though they are making a joke, their intention is that you're gonna feel a certain kind of way. That is what differentiates it from stand-up comedy. Every single thing I say on stage is said with nothing but the intention to make people laugh. And I understand.
But again, we know that's not true because you even said that you were trying to like push away your audience. So that's like not even true. It's just like weird that you would even say that. Okay.
I'm going to make everybody else laugh. Some people heal totally differently when it comes to certain topics. I get that and I accept that.
It's just like a weird fucking Glaze festival. Like it's not even true. What are you talking about?
I'm not for you. But
but getting touchy about that, even if you've been hurt, getting touchy about that, first of all, that's a sign that you still have some real work to do. And second, getting touchy about that and then shielding yourself from any exposure to that is not the way to being cured. Quite the contrary, you know, like if it's better if you've had a traumatic experience in your life, not to protect yourself unduly.
I love being traumatized, baby.
From situations that might bring that back up, but to voluntarily expose yourself to situations where that's likely to be the case. And so it might be understandable in that people have been hurt, but it's counterproductive even with regard to their own recovery.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, partly what comedy does too, it has this psychological function, is that it does provide it's sort of like a horror movie in some ways, you know.
It looks like Jordan is so fascinated by this conversation, and Matt's just kind of chilling.
It's a weird thing that people will go voluntarily watch a horror movie, because you might ask, like, why would you pay?
Well, I mean, you voluntarily watch a horror movie because it's like this weird concept of like safe danger. Like, you know, you're not in danger by watching the movie. You're just kind of chilling. Like everything's kind of, it's the same thing as like a roller coaster. You're getting like a sense of exhilaration, but you're not actually putting yourself into danger. So it's kind of fine to you.
To be scared, but you're not. You're paying for the experience of the mastery of your fear, right? And you have to, well, and then in comedy, you see the same sort of thing happening, is the comedians are always toying with the forbidden. And the reason for that, in part, the reason the audience participates is because well, we often have to deal with the forbidden. And often some of the things we forbid aren't things that we should be avoiding or forbidding. So
True, man. I'm
Russell
speaking in my
Peters,
language.
he's a good example.
He's all right.
Peters, when he does his huge stadium shows, it's so interesting to watch them because he tells racist jokes nonstop, and you can feel that there's a palpable demand in the audience from the ethnic group that he hasn't yet skewered to be skewered so that they can show that they can take a joke, that they're in on the joke, right? And so
I guess I don't know if it's that deep. I think that it's just that like his jokes, whoever his jokes are probably just not poorly intentioned, and so people of different communities are like, oh, I like this guy, he's funny, he tells an edgy joke without being disrespectful to us as people. And I think again that's the issue with Matt Rife's comedy, or at least the one special, is that he tried to be offensive. And
so the comedians, they have that function of putting forward, what would you say, unpalatable truths, right? In a place where everyone's there to do that voluntarily. That's part of the game.
Also, Russell Peter isn't white, so he's allowed to make more ethnic jokes based. Listen, I disagree with it, by the way. You know, white people, we're the real victims. We should be able to make whatever jokes about whoever the fuck I want. You know? We're the best. I'm just kidding. But, yeah, kind of true.
How far can we push things?
You think that Matt Rife good looks are to his detriment? No, of course not. It's just attracted an audience that he wanted, by the way. Like it's a lie to suggest like he never wanted the female audience. Like he obviously wanted a particular audience. Like I think that he got an audience, and then this is what I think happened. I think that he had probably a somewhat relatively easy ride. He was telling us that at 14, when he was just starting comedy, that like people like D.L. Hughley were letting him fucking, you know, do whatever. So I think that this is somebody who did pretty well, partly because he's handsome and charismatic and did not have this issue with self-esteem or whatever in this way that he's trying to make it seem like that he did. And I think that he had a pretty easy shot to success, and he got a large audience, and then he got a little older and he saw other people like Shane Gillis who were like killing it with jokes, being like a funny guy. He's making solid, edgy, fun humor. People not really getting any criticism because like people understand that he's coming from a good spot. And then I think he wanted to be that, so he started telling like edgy jokes that intentionally distance his audience. Like that's what I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that that's more likely, personally. So
to get all bitchy about that and to try to cancel someone in consequence. I saw this one guy on YouTube who's complaining about you. You know, he said, first of all, maybe you'll recognize him. He said that, you know, you built your career.
They don't want to say his name. No free clout.
As an ally of women. That was basically his point. Now that you've betrayed them with your jokes about domestic abuse. And so he was playing this, you know, I'm the friend.
Well, I mean, if that's true, what's the problem with that? Like, if you know what I mean? Like,
friend of women sort of game. Yeah. But he's violating that contract too, which is that everybody's there in a comedy club to play with disaster. And you know, you're essentially supposed to go along with that.
I just don't understand how the environment isn't taken into consideration. Like the environment is the
that is taken into consideration. The environment of like, that's not typical for the comedy that you make. That's the whole consideration, is the environment. What?
Context. Think of comedy like a store, for like a restaurant front, right? You go in
like
there,
a poop.
The food's
you gotta take them.
You can leave. You didn't have to stop in here. Comedy is such a niche field. It's not, I wouldn't consider stand-up comedy a mainstream art form. I wouldn't. It's not film, it's not television, it's not music, it's not as globally celebrated in every household, you know? So I think, it just blows my mind that people can't just let it be. If it's not for you, it's not for you.
I see what's happening, I think. Like even this guy that criticized you in the manner that I just described, I found what he had to say, and him for that matter, contemptible. I thought it was pathetic. But
I don't know, for the very little you told us, his point sounds solid. It sounds pretty decent. So
this is something social media does, is that
dude just turned me around.
His video, even though I don't think it redounds to his credit, has given him more exposure likely than anything he will ever do in his life, right?
Yes.
And so one of the problems is, and this is a huge problem on the social media side, is that we've put undue access to status in the hands of people who will misuse accusations to garner attention. You know, and you might say, well, why would...
Well, what accusation did he say? The only thing he said was like, yeah, you used to make content for women, and then you just tried to piss your audience off, so you're an asshole. It doesn't sound that bad.
People want that kind of negative attention, and the answer to that is... Well,
comedy's a niche. Is that what he said? Comedy's a niche? I don't think so. Pretty sure comedy is probably one of the biggest, like, people love comedy. What?
High school shooters will shoot up a high school for attention, and they'll shoot themselves afterwards, which seems to be run kind of contrary to their desire for attention. Mm-hmm. But what that just...
I feel like that is very rare that they shoot themselves. Could be wrong, but okay.
Shows is how much people want attention. And the problem, one of the massive problems with social media is that it provides people who are willing to do something like savage your reputation with way more attention than they could ever accrue given their own status and abilities.
Sure. I mean, there is a level of truth to the fact that people will use Twitter for attention, and they will virtue signal about shit that they don't even care about. For sure. Yeah, sure. Okay.
So what to do about that? I have no idea.
I mean, your biggest claim to fame, Jordan, at this point, though, is that being like highly transphobic. Like, I don't know. Like, you kind of do the same thing, no?
Although apologizing is a bad
Don't fight
idea.
me. Don't fight me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll never apologize for a joke, ever. I just find the prioritization of human beings to be so You're on this earth for 80 years, let's call it on average, whatever it was at, what's the average, 83, something
80
like
funny
that.
years.
80
after
funny
that,
years.
they're not so funny.
I disagree. I think after 80, you get to be funnier. You get to excuse. You can shit wherever you want after 90. I think if you're on this earth for such a limited amount of time, how insane is it to sit behind your phone and computer and complain about something?
It's for infamy, not attention. No, infamy is attention. Like, you want to be, like, infamy is like bad famous. Yeah, of course it's for attention.
You don't like, when you have a world at your hands of all the things you do, like, what an absolute waste of energy, time.
I like to jack off. Anybody ever hear that joke before?
I'm in emotion.
I gotta stop with those jokes. They're just beating
Starting
dead
a
horse.
business can be tough, especially knowing how to run your online storefront. Thanks to Shopify.
All right, guys, Shopify, code Jordan Pickleboy for $1 a month.
Inclined when you...
Okay.
So why do you think you were inclined when this Tempest in a Teapot emerged to make arguably even a worse joke? Because I think, which I'm very pleased about, by the way. I thought that was actually a masterstroke.
Thank you.
You topped what you were being accused of by picking on an even lower status group.
Dick off.
Which I thought was...
I disagree.
Okay, go ahead.
I disagree. When people think that joke was intended to make fun of special needs people, that's
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not making that assumption.
Okay,
but that was the risk of the misinterpretation.
Of course.
No,
I
thought
thought inevitably what happened.
Yeah,
and I go, no.
But it was a risk. It was a daring and risky move. And
I think he was. Well, yeah, he was making fun of people with disabilities. I mean, the intention wasn't to make fun of people with disabilities. The intention was to call people complaining about him like dumb, or the R slur in some capacity. Yeah, okay.
Thought it was hilarious, but
I mean, it does have like the secondary of making fun of those people, but I don't think that was his intention. Did many people interpret that? Because I didn't interpret it like that. Like, I didn't assume the intentionality was to bully people with disabilities.
Thing is, that is often not what happens. I mean, I've seen celebrity after celebrity who are cornered by a small minority of their audience, right? Abjectly apologize. And so, did you? First of all, did you have any guilt about the domestic violence joke? Which, by the way, I also thought was very funny.
Because it's a completely made up story. Like, it's. I went to one diner and a girl had like a little bruise under her eye, and it was like a conversational joke that happened at our table, and I went, This is crazy. Well, how do you describe this humor? Is there a definition or a label for the kind of humor that you just say the worst possible scenario? It's funny because it's ridiculous, because you know it's not true, because you know it's not what you mean, you know it's not the right thing. That is what makes it funny. What is that level? What is that style of comedy?
Well, it's a kind of irony. It's a kind of irony.
Is it irony? It's not fully sarcasm. It's not totally satire.
No.
But it's a wildly common sense of humor. Like, a lot of people share that together, and that is who I want.
Yeah, well, that's part of ridicule, I would say. Like, but the exaggeration of something. It's also, if you take, so you took this scenario that you saw at a restaurant and blew it up into something beyond what it was. See, it's another form of exposure there too, because obviously domestic violence is a terrible thing, and there's nothing funny about someone with a black eye, except under very restricted circumstances. But being able to see, one of the things that you do when you set up a terrible scenario, and then you make a joke about it, is first of all, you signal to the audience that you understand that this was a terrible scenario. And then you signal that even though you know it was a terrible scenario, there's part of you that can rise above it and transcend it, right? And to make light of it. And I don't think there is anything really more admirable in human beings than their ability to make light of a tragedy.
Yes.
And light...
Yeah, sure, I guess so. I mean, one would argue that, like, he probably... Listen, I don't adhere to this joke or this rule, but people would say, like, well, it's not his trauma to joke about. It's not his tragedy to joke about. So, like, it's not really, like, here's the thing. I make edgy jokes all the time. Not really my, like, I have no connection when I make a joke about a black Santa, right? But you would argue that that's, like, lowbrow because it's not coming from a place of anything. You're just being an asshole. So.
It doesn't mean to minimize its importance. It means to transform something that's truly negative into something that's manageable and comical. One of the things I've seen with people who've undergone very deeply traumatic experiences is that you know that they've recovered from their absolute catastrophe when they can start making a joke about it. And my daughter...
Matt, did you recover from your DV being domestically abused or? Okay.
For example, had a very rough childhood and adolescence. She was very, very ill. And she can tell the worst parts of her experiences in a manner that's like, it'll bring tears of laughter to your eyes. It's screamingly funny, partly because it's so awful. You just can't believe it, right?
Course.
Yeah,
but partly because in recounting it and sharing it, you also signaled that it can be talked about, it can be faced, and it can be transcended and got by. And that's what you're doing in real time on a comedy stage. It's like, yeah, we share this snake pit of hell that we all live in from time to time, but that doesn't mean that we have to dive in and wallow in it. We can make light of it. And that's what great comedians do continually. And so I thought that's what you did with the domestic violence joke. Yeah. And you added some nice kitchen-related misogyny to that very rapidly, which was good.
It's a modern twist.
Yeah, some of that classic kitchen-related misogyny. We gotta love it. Some of that classic high bar fucking shit. I mean, listen, I love kitchen misogyny, but I don't understand how we're jerking each other off here as if like Matt Rife fucking reinvented the wheel here. He told an edgy domestic violence joke and he won't shut the fuck up about it. He's complaining more than they can. Like at this point, he's just becoming annoying. Like this is the problem: is he intentionally pissed off his audience, and now he's going around talking to Jordan Peterson because he likes the canceled aesthetic. He likes being the I'm the fucking guy who got canceled, dude. Like I'm fucking such a victim, you know. That's his whole shtick right now.
An old joke, you know what I mean? It was a real circumstance that happened. I'm sorry.
Bro, this 2 years is incredible.
An exaggerated instance that really happened, and I went, you know, this is a classic joke. Why not give my own personal modern twist on it and move on? The joke's like a minute and 30 seconds, and people were like, all he did was bash women for an hour. I go, did you get to the cum? Right. There's so much cum in the middle of the show. We talk about airplanes and ghosts and monsters. It was such a minute.
What is this, a Papa Gut stream? Airplanes, ghosts, cum, and fucking sexism? What the fuck is this, dude? What the fuck?
Thing that I go, hey, and I purposely did it first in the show to go, hey, just so you know, this is the kind of humor I like to tell. And if it's not for you, you are so more.
Hey guys who've been to all my shows, that was not me. I was joking. This is the real me. I love doing this. Fuck everything else that I've been doing. This is what I like. I don't have a type.
You're welcome to turn off the TV right now. I don't want you to
Bad bitches are the only thing that I like.
You think I am, and then halfway through the show, he goes, "Oh, he ruined it." I'd rather tell you up front, like, "Hey, we're gonna do some dark humor because this is how I personally."
Jimmy Carr does that too. He often starts out with the worst thing he can possibly say, just to establish the boundaries.
Why not? Yeah. I find it wildly important to make light of dark situations. I feel like you have two options to deal with the situation. You can either...
If only we could make all the dark things light, those situations, I mean. I'm canceled again, Papa Gut. They're going to get me again for that edgy joke. That was an intelligent humor. Huh? Guys, cancel me so I can pretend I'm a fucking victim.
When it comes to a certain topic, you can either let it take up a negative space in your mind and energy to where if the word or topic even gets said around you, you get so triggered and uncomfortable, it ruins your day.
And the day of everyone around you.
Yes, or you can find a way to laugh about it, find a way to heal.
Find a goddamn way, you goddamn it.
Something positive to say about your experience or how you've come to deal with it that can then lead to other people healing through the same way. When my grandpa passed away, my friends knew. My friends bombarded me with dead grandfather jokes.
Fuck your grandpa. He was an asshole. He molested me. Oh, got him! Epic reputation burn. I love jokes about my dead grandfather. I don't know what's happening.
He knew that was going to help me laugh and get through that. And it was the toughest moment of my entire life. And to this
that's also a testament in many ways to your character, because your friends knew that
knew that you loved jokes, and they were like, hey man, let's joke together. It's like when your friend gets you a basketball for Christmas because they knew you liked basketball. It's like, wow, these guys are so profound.
Through those dire circumstances that they could still poke and prod at you, and that you might be able to manage the situation with something approximating a sense of humor.
Precisely.
You know, when I lectured.
Precisely. You know, when I'm on stage, I'm always having these incredibly nuanced and radical thoughts how to mentally invoke the people I'm talking to have a profound thought.
At Harvard for a long time on Auschwitz. And that's about as dark a topic as you can possibly.
What is that, a hairstyle?
Manage. And I had a voice in the back of my mind constantly. It was dead serious lectures, right?
And I was like, what if we did an anti-Semitism? I can't say like a joke because YouTube will cancel me.
The voice said continually, if you were truly a master of this topic, you could deal with it with a light touch. And I thought, oh my God, really? Okay. Like, really? I'm going to talk about how prison guards took delight in torturing people at Auschwitz, and I'm going to do that with a light touch? And I realized after thinking about that for a very long time, like decades really, that you aren't a master of something until you could deal with it with a light touch, no matter.
I mean, okay, what the fuck are you talking about? He's just rambling at this point. You're a teacher. You don't need to make a joke out of fucking Jews being genocided. I don't understand, like... I don't understand. None of this makes sense to me. Like, you're a teacher. Why would you make light about it? Like, hey guys, let me tell you a really funny joke about what? What is his point? He's like glazing this guy so much. It's one thing to be like, yeah, I can appreciate a stand-up comedian, you know, making humor out of like a serious topic. I do respect. Like, that's fine. But he's like, if I wish I could do it, and I wish I could tell funny Hitler jokes. Like, they should have just let him in art school. You know, they should have just let him in the goddamn school. You know, this guy's just
no matter how dark a subject that it is, and like obviously the darker the subject, the more mastery you have to have in order to make light of it, clearly, right, without going sideways. But I still do think it's a sign of mastery, and that's why people enjoy the laughter so much, right? Because it is a signal of mastery, often over tragedy and what's forbidden and what's dark. And to interfere with that means that the woke types who are interfering with that are actually doing a disservice to the very morality that they claim to stand for. Because what you're doing if you're a comic is actually helping people, not hurting them. And you can tell you're helping them because they laugh.
Oh, of course. And it doesn't need to be for the masses. If you reach even just a few people, you're doing the right thing. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, everything I do is just to make people laugh, right?
Okay, so I'm curious about that because, well, obviously, the people who apologize for offending someone with their art or their comedy must have doubts about their own intent, right?
I mean, listen, here's the thing. I think we live in a world where I think there is a little bit of a sensitivity problem, okay? There can be some people who are too sensitive about some stuff, and like, yeah, I think it's a problem. And then there are people who will over-apologize in different capacities, whether they'll give an actual apology that isn't warranted, or they will ham it up too much. They'll be disproportionate because they're getting disproportionate energy, and like, you know, everything becomes very chaotic. That absolutely exists 100%. But also, not everybody who apologizes is like leaning into a cancel mob. Like, some people might just be like, hey, you know, sorry. Like, if Matt Rife could have came out, I'm not saying he should. Personally, I think he just should have just shut the fuck up. The fact that he's using this as like a tool to get big as a comedian is kind of pathetic. It's like annoying. It's like, okay, to me, you wanted to be canceled so you can get this attention. He could have came forward and said, hey guys, you know, I know that my show was different than it usually is. And I'm sorry for people that was a little bit of a system shock. But this is the type of humor that I would like to make moving forward. And like, if it's not something that you're into, I totally understand, you know, whatever. Okay, I think that would have been fun. But like, it's this intentional, you know, trying to... How are you getting healed so much? It's like this intentionality of trying to like be a canceled figure. Like, that seems to be the whole thing.
So someone comes along and jabs them and says, maybe you're just a mean son of a bitch. And they go, well, you know, maybe I should be more careful. Maybe they're feeling a bit depressed. Whatever. They do step back and doubt themselves. So,
I've been watching you for a minute. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that Ash catch-up.
You could say that there are two reasons that someone called for their misbehavior might doubt themselves. One would be that they're narcissistic, and the other would be that they're actually confident in their intent. Okay, now you've indicated a number of times while we've talked that you are confident in your intent.
Yeah. Well, but he's lying. We already know his intent was to trigger people. Like, what are you talking about?
Okay, so if I was like a persistent skeptic, I would say, well, you clearly offended 12,000 people. That was the number you came up with. Why are you so confident in your intent that your belief in your own goodness in relationship to comedy trumps the fact that like 12,000 people are telling you that you said something offensive?
What is it? Fastafajul. Sorry.
Because if 12,000 people...
I don't know why that came into my head, but that's what came into my head. So.
Are sending that, I would say 100,000 people are saying they loved it and they've been through domestic violence situations.
I'm thinking that there wasn't 100,000 people who were like, Matt, I loved this special. I'm thinking that there are people like, yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it was all right. It was pretty good.
And they found the joke very funny, that they are actually able to deal with that situation in a comedic light.
Right.
And I commend that bravery. I can only imagine what it takes to get through something like that. But if I can help in any way, even if it was on accident...
Yeah.
I feel great about it.
I mean, what I'm hearing is this guy's a fucking hero to people that have been beat up. So, kind of a cool guy. In my opinion, he's actually a national treasure.
Okay, so part of what you used for calibration was the fact that as far as you could tell, honestly looking at it, first of all, that you were just trying to be funny and that joke didn't differ from 1,000 other jokes that you've told.
Yeah.
But also that a marked majority of people agreed with that. It got laughs in the club. Well, that's kind of how you know, right?
Yeah,
that's how you know, right?
For the past 5 months.
For the past 5 months.
Probably, oh, God. 200 cities I did that joke in, and opened with it, and it crushed every time, which is why I kept it for the special. Like that's how you gauge a reaction. Look, some jokes won't be funny. I'm currently building a new show right now. I'm constantly.
It's weird that that's the first time I've heard him say that. Like, yeah, I've always done this joke. I feel like that's not true. Why has he only said it the first time now? That this is like a consistent joke he's told. Like, my understanding that he said that he wanted to trigger his audience. What? This is so cringe.
I'm doing so many new jokes right now. Some of them will stay, some of them won't stay. You have to gauge. You have to try to figure out what works and what doesn't.
And you have to listen.
You have to listen.
Yeah. Okay, so that's that's good too, because one of the things, so Freud regarded jokes as a route to the unconscious, like as part of the royal road to the unconscious. Well, the reason for that is that you don't get to decide whether you're going to laugh if it's a genuine laugh.
Oh,
if someone says something that's funny, you'll laugh, even if you're embarrassed about laughing.
Just like that, guys. That's how I laugh.
Afterwards, right? So the funniest jokes are actually the ones where you laugh despite yourself.
Yeah, of course.
Right. But what that shows is that when you tell a good joke, you're striking someone very rapidly and very hard in a part of their being that can't be faked. So
it's kind of hot, actually. I would get a little horny for that.
There's something dreadfully honest about comedy, because no one laughs at a joke with a real laugh, and you can tell if it's a real laugh. Unless the joke is actually funny. And so what that also means...
Did you guys think that was a real laugh? Because I was acting.
Is, well, you're telling these jokes and collecting the responses. So you had this domestic violence joke, and you might say, well, that's risky, but that's not the right question. The right question...
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
This is my first time on stream.
Incredible. Thank you, brother. I love you so much. I love the meme.
Is it actually funny?
I don't have
And another question is, can you rely on the fact that it's funny as an indicator of its moral worth? And I think you can. I think that if you tell a joke to repeated audiences and you get a good humored laugh out of that, like a genuine laugh,
like a Santa
then that's
Claus
an indication that you've actually struck the target in the right place. And the people who are complaining about that have more faith in their ideological judgment than they do in the spontaneous reaction of a multitude of people.
Yes.
Right.
But it's entirely, what I love about comedy is it's entirely subjective.
Yeah.
And the point is that it makes somebody laugh, right? Man. If it does make one person laugh, it is definitively funny.
Well, so like, listen, this obviously by itself is not right. If I started making a bunch of like jokes that are about how I think an entire group of people shouldn't be alive, and I'm like, guys, I'm fucking joking, idiot. Don't you know? I'm thinking that maybe just because I got some white supremacists to laugh. I'm just saying, like, the fundamentals that we're operating on here are just like silly goosery. Like, obviously not all this is true. Dude, stop fucking with my balls here.
Just not to the masses, which is totally fine. Obviously, the objective of having a stand-up comedy career is to appeal to as many as you possibly can. But your comedic intentions is if I get a laugh, technically the joke is funny. Now it's up to me to listen and gauge the audience where I go, do I leave it as is and I appeal to this one person, which is technically still not wrong, the joke is still funny, or do I do more work on this joke?
Bro, you just stay being a comedian, because your fucking philosophy is abysmal dog shit garbage. It makes me want to fart inside of my own mouth.
To properly articulate
I want to taste what I ate yesterday. This is fucking horrible.
Why I think this is funny and why you should laugh at it to try to get everybody else on board.
How are you guys talking about an hour? This is so fucking dumb. I mean, I got to finish it now. We only got like 20 minutes left. But what the fuck is this? This is like just two guys jerking off in a room. This is the gayest porn I've ever watched. Like, dude, you made an edgy joke to trigger your fans. It worked. And now you're parading yourself as a victim and you're telling like a revisionist history of what you actually happened to you. Guys, I was bullied a lot when I was a kid. People didn't really give me a chance. When I was 14, DL Hughley let me open for him. Okay. What a life. What a hard life,
Okay, so when you're screening jokes,
all right. So when you're screening these jokes,
you could imagine a joke that.
All right, you're going down, bitch.
This was like this with pieces of music. There'll be pieces of music that are very popular, that spread very rapidly, but that have no legs, right? They're the sort of earworm that you listen to once or twice.
TikTok
it's catchy.
Trends.
Yeah. When you're selecting jokes, I'm wondering, what are your criteria? Can't just be that it makes the most people laugh. Like, I can imagine there are jokes that have a delayed response, and the faster people in the audience can.
Oh, you mean that like there's jokes that will build to a crescendo of comedy? Sure, Jordan. Yeah, I think the point is that when you're telling comedy, it's supposed to flow. Different jokes will build onto themselves. Like, yes, and if your humor is more advanced, if you have like an advanced Papa Gut level humor, and only some people in the audience get it, well, then you're just fucking balling.
Catch it. Like,
absolutely.
Okay, so can you tell?
Yep.
How do you determine which jokes you keep?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like, what kind of response are you looking for?
If people laugh, I usually keep those ones.
The most amount of laughter is the best possible outcome.
But sometimes some girls will show me their tits and I go, good joke. Let's keep it up.
However, I don't know how to break this down psychologically, but there's something about comedians that like an response.
Right.
He said the thing
that's
you're
an
not
edgier
supposed to say.
Yeah.
And it is funny. Not laugh out loud funny, but
dude, I get that all the time when I watch somebody make a pronoun joke. I'm like, whoa, dude, he's not supposed to say that. He's canceled. I like this canceled guy. He's a pretty handsome feller, smart fella, or a fart smeller. We don't really know. Because that's the type of world we live in.
He said it funny. Now,
well, that's sort of
value.
That's separate from shock value, though, like you're pointing out. It's like,
that is shock value. What?
I can't believe he had the gall to say that. That's like the gesture in the king's court, fundamentally, right? Is that you've brought to light something that everyone knows or suspects and pointed to it. Right. And that is funny that you get an response like that.
But also to be so personal too, because that joke about domestic violence, you saw, if you saw the joke I don't know if you saw the whole special or the clip of it, but you saw a laughter reaction, right?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody
I was laughing.
Yes,
I was laughing so hard.
Whatsoever. If you watch later in the special, I do a school shooting joke that gets a massive response.
And you didn't get canceled for that.
Nobody's talking about that. People only care about the things that offend them specifically. They don't care about me hurting somebody else's feelings potentially. It's very selfish. I find it entirely selfish.
That's not even tracking with what this conversation's about. Just to be clear, this doesn't track with what this conversation's about. Because earlier on, Jordan Peterson's having a fucking meltdown because guys who are not women, I don't know if you guys know that. We're not making a trans joke, by the way. Guys are getting offended on behalf of women, and they're just virtue signaling cucks that are trying to defend women. And now he's like, isn't it so selfish that people don't get offended on behalf of other people? Pick a fucking struggle, dude. This is what I'm talking about. These guys haven't fleshed out anything that they're saying. They're just speaking words. They're silly little gooses. They're just stinky little boys. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, that's all that's happening right now.
You're going to let me make fun of other things and make jokes and make light of certain other dark topics. But the thing that affects you personally is the only thing you're upset about? It's very selfish.
It's very selfish. Yeah, I agree with that, even though 10 minutes ago I was just saying the opposite.
You got to ask yourself, too, if the people that I saw complaining about you, I saw absolutely no evidence in the way they were talking about your joke that they actually were hurt or offended. Whatever they said was, and I've seen this about people complaining on Twitter in particular, or in public, they almost always claim offense on the behalf of hypothetical other people who somehow they're acting as allies for or spokespeople for, which is...
You guys are contesting each other's argument in this instance.
A little bit on the condescending side to begin with, if you ask me. It's like if they're offended, you know, if a group of women against domestic abuse had conjured up a petition against you, you know, and it was composed of 100,000...
Well, I'm sure some women that were domestically abused said something about this. So... Which is surprising because you'd think that they would have learned from being abused for speaking up to a man in the first place, but women are stubborn, baby.
Well, that might be more evidence that some dim-witted TikToker who decided that they were going to be the spokespeople for these hypothetically offended victims. Right?
No,
all the women feel chained up in the kitchen.
And it's also as simple as just being an easy target. Like a lot of people just...
Yeah, I mean, he's a victim. He's an attractive white guy. I'm not trying to be like all racial, but I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Easy target. Like, what?
To not like me, so you give them any inkling of that, they go, boom, here's the thing I can attach myself.
Well, it isn't only, I think, that they don't want to like you. It's that you blew up relatively quickly. Like, I mean, I know
which isn't my fault.
No.
I would have.
Oh, now the reason people don't like him is because he blew up too quickly. Dude, pick a fucking struggle. Before it was like, oh, you made a joke that was too edgy. What are you talking about, dude? Stop killing me. Stop it. Racist.
Loved a progressive rise in my career. I didn't know TikTok was gonna do this.
Right. Well, but you did put in the work.
Yes.
You know, it didn't happen. It didn't happen exactly overnight. You said you were in the trenches for what, 5 years before you had anything approximating real success. How long do you think?
I would real success.
Well,
real success. I would say in stand up, real success, probably 9 years.
9 years. Okay. So we can't say that you blew up like this, but it wasn't sudden.
No.
Right. It had a very long developmental curve.
Yes,
and then,
exactly.
Right. But that's typical. That's typical of success, right?
I don't have
even if
type.
It doubles. Say it doubles every 18 months. If it starts at
that's
zero,
a lot.
it takes a long time for that doubling.
Yeah, it's like get a penny every day. Get doubles the pennies every day. Eventually you have $1 million after a month or something. I don't know.
To start to actually show.
Yes.
Okay, but what that also meant was that, and this is another problem with social media, is that you had accrued a lot of status capital, right? So your status capital would be directly associated with how many people.
They listened, dude. I told them to just drop the flag so we can get out of this fucking thing so we can get our goddamn token. That's all it's about, and he did it because I'm a genius. I'm a smart guy. Everybody respects me.
Know you essentially and appreciate what you do. And what that means is that hangers-on can now leverage that for their own purposes. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is to complain about you publicly in a way that looks like it's compassionate.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's zero effort on behalf of the person who does that. And what they're doing then is stealing some of your accrued social capital. And what's really appalling about that, as far as I'm concerned, is that they're doing that for their own narcissistic ends, which is why they make public statements on TikTok.
But like you do this to people also, Jordan, except for in broad groups of people, like trans people, instead of specific people, like a specific person. So like you're no better than what the people that you're criticizing. Like, oh yeah, there are people who just want to go after you for social capital. Like, yeah, for sure, that absolutely exists. And then there's also people who say dumb, edgy shit for social capital. Like it's you do the same thing.
Say in the hope that they'll go viral, and then they also do that while claiming that compassion rather than narcissism is their fundamental motivation. Right.
Yeah,
very ugly
it's
game.
Purely clout chasing at its definition. To attach yourself to what somebody else has going on for your own selfish gain is so pathetic. You don't have anything else to offer. TikTok is a massive platform of a lot of artistic creators. It's everything from people dancing to philosophers.
Right.
Are you saying acoustic creators? Because that's kind of fucked up.
There's so much you can do on there.
Well, you can do anything.
Any of it without me.
Right, without
so
stealing from you, because that's essentially what it is.
And completely lying about who you think somebody is.
Right.
You don't know who somebody is based on a joke they said.
Yeah.
Sarcasm.
I know everything about everybody the second I look into their eyes. I'm a fucking genius.
It exists for a reason. I didn't mean the thing I said. I said it because it's funny and not what I actually feel on the inside.
So,
just to be clear, a lot of times people tell jokes that communicate reality, but also, okay, I mean, you told the joke. I can't believe this is an hour and 15-minute fucking podcast about one shitty joke you told.
Who makes up the bulk of your audience in your live shows? Is it men or women?
It is women, but I would say it's massively changed over the past, I'd say 5 or 6 months. When my TikTok status really started to rise at the top of last year, it was wildly predominantly female. I would say my shows from October of last year till about March of this year were like 90% women.
Any idea why?
Because he's attractive. That's it. And he got popular because he's attractive. And then he played into that audience, and now he's trying to abandon that audience. Like
it's anybody's guess. You could say it's my face. You could say it's my humor. I couldn't.
What do you think? Well, you play. I watched your crowd work. I mean, you're good at playing with the women who poke at you.
Yes, they wanted to be roasted. That was that was a very specific trend. A lot of women hopped onto. Like a woman would heckle, would yell something out, and that's obviously annoying. So you retort with a mean response comedically.
Yeah.
And this caught on. People were really into that. Like people were coming to shows. Women were coming to shows requesting to be roasted. Now, obviously, I don't mean
typical women seeking out violence from men. Jesus Christ.
Mean anything I say. I mean, shut up.
Right,
and stop yelling out at shows.
Right.
But I'm articulating it in a way that's, I'm just making some jokes at your
You say my face. Lay troll face.
expense. This caught on so heavily. I think there might be, I don't know if it's a fetish or some kind.
I don't know, maybe it's because you dared to do it, Maybe that's possible.
Maybe it's because you're brave. Maybe you dared to do it. Maybe you're fucking brave, Matt. Maybe you're such a brave guy. Can we kiss?
There's an appreciation for
that's what
being
happens
bold.
with Russell Peters when he's making ethnic jokes.
Do you know Russell, by the way?
Do I know him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know him well, but we've spoken.
I've known him for years.
He was on my podcast.
He's a great guy. I've known him for
Russell's
years.
great. And he's been unbelievably successful, and he dares to make ethnic jokes to everyone. Yeah, is that right? That doesn't surprise me.
And that, by the way, what you just said is wildly important. If you're going to make jokes at a group's expense, you have to be open to making jokes about everybody. Otherwise, it does feel targeted.
Yeah, well, and he makes jokes about his own ethnic group more than anyone else's, and they're very pointed and targeted.
Just like I make fun of myself probably more than anybody else does. That's what baffles me is when people can't laugh
I don't think that's true. Okay, whatever.
With themselves.
Right.
Nothing makes me laugh harder than when someone's like making a
that's the best.
About me.
That's one of the things I really like about British humor.
Yeah,
the Brits are so good at making fun of
themselves.
It's
They're
the
so
best.
good.
I went over
such
there.
Fat fucking cocks.
I think it was June of this year, May or June. This year feels 3 years
so
long.
big. It's fucking
sometime late spring, early summer this year. We had a bunch of shows
pussy.
out there. And I fell in love with it. I would love a reason to move to London for like a year to just do comedy out there. The audience.
They have a Comedy Unleashed group there.
Unleashed.
Well, because the comics in the UK have really come under.
Some like to call it comedy, like cum out of your penis.
Assault, and a lot of them have been cancelled. And so there's a group in London.
Really?
Oh wow, there's an entire group in London of just people who were canceled before. That sounds like a fucking horribly boring, dumb fucking group. Yeah, we've all been canceled. It's pretty cool. I feel like it's not cool to be canceled. Like there are people who get disproportionately canceled, but then sometimes people try to get canceled and they act like obnoxious dicks, and it's like that's like, oh, I'm pretty cool. Okay.
who's this? Andrew Doyle. Andrew Doyle runs Comedy Unleashed.
Andrew Dingle.
Online character.
I know that guy.
Who's a satire of a
Andrew Bungle.
He wrote a book by Titania McGrath.
I got him.
Yeah, she's the worst of the woke feminists. Anyways, he started this group called Comedy Unleashed, and I went to one of their shows so far in London. I actually read a piece that I wrote for my little 2-year-old grandson who was trying all sorts of things on his...
You said that he read a piece that he wrote for his 2-year-old grandson? That wrote it yourself? The fuck is that? Why'd you read it then?
Head pretending they were hats like old pieces of fish and so forth. And yeah, but anyways, if that when you go to the UK again, they're very much worth looking up. Comedy Unleashed.
I will definitely check them out.
I think the funniest UK comedians are now associated with Comedy Unleashed, and they have these fora in London that are designed to genuinely be open discourse events, as you can make a joke about any damn thing you want, and everyone who comes there knows that and appreciates it.
I love that.
Yeah, well, it makes the shows very funny too, as you might imagine.
Because everyone goes and they're on the same page. Let's just have some fun.
Yeah.
I would love to do a streaming platform like that someday, where creators can go on there and it's whatever.
Yeah, you can jack each other off. It's called Pornhub. You stream your cock, jerk off. You could do that on OnlyFans too. I think you could stream on there. I don't really know. I mean, I imagine. I don't really know. But, do it there.
The humor you want. Same kind of setup as like a porn website. You go on there, you click 18 and you click 18 and up, right? You know what you're getting into. Same with...
Yeah. I used to do... What's interesting is that when I was a kid, I would look at porn. I was like, I will not look at the... When it said, are you 18? I was like, I can't lie. What the hell? You know what's crazy, though? My understanding, I heard this from a friend, is that this website called X Hamster makes you age verify now? It's like, who's going to use that?
This website, you go on there, you realize you're going to hear some crude shit.
Right. Well, you should pretty well know that if you go to a comedy show.
You would think.
Well, you would.
I mean, listen, I've never had a problem at a live show. Ever. I have never once had anybody have a stand up and be like, that was not okay to say.
Oh, yeah, not once.
Almost 13 years of doing comedy, not once.
Oh, you're obviously not.
All right, well, I imagine most people are just not going to do that. They're just going to walk out and go, I wasn't a big fan of that, but okay.
Pushing the envelope hard enough.
Jordan Peterson said it first.
Again, you went into the special, apparently, with the express intention of abandoning your audience. So,
I love my new hour that I'm working on right now. It's so much edgier. It blows my mind.
I don't think this guy's gonna last. I don't think he knows how to do edgy humor very well. I think that he's too much of a dick. I think that he doesn't respond very well to it. He literally is like fucking victimizing himself. He's very quickly going to turn into like that canceled comedian that makes his entire identity out of being canceled. So I don't really see it lasting, but okay.
Chose this one thing to attach themselves onto, and I just think it's.
Oh well, it's gonna redound to your credit anyways, particularly because you didn't apologize. So all that's going to happen, as far as I can tell, is that this will bring a lot more attention to your work, and people will be thrilled about the fact that you didn't apologize. One of the things that I've noticed repeatedly, because I've gone through repeated attempts to cancel me, is that it is.
I mean, you tell people on Twitter to take their own lives. Like you said that. That's one of the problems. That's like the biggest reason why he's having this aspect where he's getting like told he's going to lose his license because he won't take a sensitivity training because he told somebody on Twitter that they should take their own life. Like, but he's a professional. He's held to a drastically higher standard. And he's like, people are always trying to cancel me. Yeah, because you said that there's a fucking trans conspiracy to like only transition people so that they can make money. It's like you're insane. You're insane. And if you have that criticism, criticize the rest of the healthcare system. But people were finding it just to trans people is because you're transphobic. It's just like he's a fucking psychopath. That's what people are fucking angry at him for. Like all these cancellations.
Can be quite an intense experience when in the immediate aftermath of its occurrence. And that's somewhat off-putting and destabilizing because you don't exactly know how far out it's going to spread or what the consequences would be. But if you didn't do anything wrong and you don't apologize, or maybe you make light of it in some creative way, then the probability that it will turn around and flip in your direction, if you can tolerate the weight, is extremely high. And I don't think that, part of the reason I bring this up is because I don't think that people who are in the throes of being canceled understand this. Because you can imagine historically, if an angry mob of your neighbors showed up on your doorstep with pitchforks and flames, and
I would just call the cops.
There's like 40 of them, it would...
That's probably cops are there. I'm fucked.
Probably be a good time to think, these people wouldn't have gone to all that time and effort, in all likelihood, had I not done something wrong.
Yeah, you're right. Back in the day, people were always right about things. They're like, "Oh, kill witches. Who's that? The one that drowns is not a witch. If they drown in the water, that proves they're not a witch." Oh, fuck. What if they float? Oh, then they're a witch and you have to kill them. Well, fuck. All these guys are angry at me for a reason. I must be a fucking witch, dude. I didn't know. I don't even know what the hell that is, but I'm Jordan Peterson says I'm a fucking witch. I'm a witch, dude. All these guys, collective hive mind. Yeah, hey, a lot of people used to love slavery. What is that? There's a reason that they're enslaving people, right? Because there's a lot of them with pitchforks, and they're like, I need a slave. Like, where does the logic end? I wonder if Jordan actually thinks about the words that he says, or if he just like has these shower thoughts, but also while he's talking to Matt Rife. Like, what you're saying doesn't even make sense.
Right, but now you can whip up a Twitter mob in no time whatsoever, with no effort, at no cost to yourself, and probably some benefit.
There's no mobs
and so
ever,
your instinctual responses to being mobbed are wrong.
Yeah,
right?
So it doesn't translate to the real world.
Right.
I just walked through 2 very packed airports and did nothing but take like 45 pictures.
Right.
Nothing but a positive response.
Have you had any negative responses? You said you had no negative responses to anything you've ever said.
Yeah, one guy jacked me off in the bathroom.
So far, when you're actually on stage. Yeah. Well, what about out in the actual world?
Not once. Never once has somebody come up to me and said, hey, I didn't like the thing you said.
Me too, actually. Nobody's ever walked up to me and disagreed with anything I said. They were always like, oh, I like you a lot. I was like, oh, cool. Thanks, brother. I gave him a kiss.
Is that kind of social, I don't know if you want to call it, between a mixture of social awareness and accountability doesn't translate to the real world. People know.
It also takes a lot of gall to do that. To come up to someone and say, you know that thing you said, even though you don't know who they are.
Imagine you see a street performer, right? They're playing violin on a street corner.
I would never ever watch a street performer. Fuck that person. Get a real job, hippie.
They've got their case out with cash, right?
Sure.
Say you hate violin. Violin drives you nuts.
Punch him.
Maybe he's not even good at playing violin. What do?
Punch him.
You keep walking, right?
Call the cops on him. I commit a hate crime. I throw rocks at the guy for being a musician. They deserve the most hatred.
No.
Is that what a hate crime is? I don't know.
No sane, decent human being stops and goes, you're fucking awful, dude. Kill yourself. What are you doing?
I might consider that. If they're that bad, they might deserve it.
You're making my life miserable until I just look a different direction. That's an insane thing to do. And most people know not to do that. But obviously the internet creates this is what I would believe to be false confidence. And believing that they're safe behind this imaginary source of social media, that they don't face any repercussions because their profile picture is an anime character. And everything's a private profile.
That's kind of funny though. It's true. It's always a fucking anime character.
There's no consequence for saying what they say.
Yeah. There's no consequence for leveling an accusation. It's really bad.
Versus the real world, if you come up to me, I can have an intellectual conversation with you as to why I disagree with you. Yes. Or I could smack the shit out of you. That is also a consequence that is viable. And that doesn't weigh on anybody on the internet. So it's easier for people to talk shit on there versus the real world where people actually aren't even bothered. And also I had to figure most of these people who talk shit on the internet and actively try to cancel people and have no life, they're not out in the real world. They're in their house doing absolutely nothing.
Jacking off. Okay, I gotta stop. But I guess, yeah, I mean, there's a level of truth. That's sure. I mean, in general, the internet brings a bunch of different people from all over the world together. So those niche communities can like really build into large, or those people who might be considered niche in their own area, that could build into a large thing.
So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and they definitely have the mentality of like mean girl high school bullies.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going to shame, we're going to reputation savage, we're going to exclude. Yeah. Those are all.
Go ahead. Put so much energy in your life into thinking about me and how much you don't like me. What a waste of your life.
Yeah,
crazy, dude.
Yeah. So now you said too that when you posted your response to the criticisms, you posted something I think that's wildly funny, by the way. And so maybe you could explain that to this particular crowd. But you also told me in the intervening time between the two podcasts that wasn't a calculated response, that you relied on your instinct for what was funny. So explain what you did.
There's so much importance and like energy into it's like, yeah, your response, which is him just linking a website for people with for helmets for people with disabilities. He's like, yeah, you didn't even calculate that, dude. How did you come up with telling people basically the R slurs? Like, I don't fucking know, dude. Like, it was fine. I'm not offended or anything by it, but it's like you're acting like the funniest thing in the world just happened. Like, it's not that deep. It's not that serious. It wasn't that funny. Where it's like, oh my God, how did you come up with this?
Did.
Holy fuck.
So funny. You sound like a principal who my parents came here. Tell them what you did.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Lay it out, man.
But the principal actually loves it. This is perfect. So now I had to convince my parents not to whoop my ass. Basically, this thing happened. There was an outrage over a joke that was wildly misperceived. And that's fine. You're allowed to like or not like a joke. Totally okay. And in response to that, I posted, when you get canceled or somebody is upset about a joke you tell, you're supposed to apologize. People want you to back down and shame you and recognize what you've done wrong. And
Good thing I'm a Nick A supporter. Never back down, never what?
Don't believe I did anything wrong whatsoever. So it made me really feel like the people who were offended by this were, for lack of better words, and to be quite frank, weak-minded. So I posted a photo of me on stage, thought it was a good photo, with a link at the bottom of it. And the caption was saying, if I've ever offended you with a joke I've told, here's a link to my official apology.
Cool.
And the link description should have been a dead giveaway. It said, click to solve your issue. And when you click on the link, it redirected you to a store,
That's
an
funny.
online
Click
storefront.
to solve your issue. That's funny.
Very specific.
Because it's a little ambiguous.
Of course. And then you click on the link and it redirects you to an online storefront for special needs helmets. Cool. I thought this was very funny. And again, misconstrued. People instinctually, again, people get triggered by subject matter than what the joke actually is. Everybody took that as I was making fun of special needs people. No.
Well, you kind of are. Like that is what's happening. You're just not doing it with that intent, but like that is what you're doing. You're calling them like less than in some way. Again, I'm not sitting here saying that you should cancel them for it. I'm just saying that is what's happening. That is the edginess of the joke. That is what makes it like an edgy, offensive joke.
I don't have anything to say about it.
Well, you're making fun of people claiming special needs for their emotional fragility inappropriately.
Exactly.
No, you're calling people you're basically calling people fucking the R slur because you think they're stupid for canceling you. What are you talking about?
Exactly. I'm saying and quite nice. You need this way more than they do.
Yeah, right.
What? Okay, this is so weird.
And the best part is
this is the same like virtue signaling energy. It's like I wasn't making fun of them. I was actually saying that you're less than those lesser creatures. It's like, what are you talking about? Like that's the implication here. Like, you're making fun of them too. Like just oh my god. This is why you shouldn't explain your jokes because you sound so fucking stupid.
You clicked on it. You fucking
That's right. They could have special needs earplugs that they could wear to comedy shows.
That
you actually couldn't
they
hear
filter
the
out the words.
Yeah,
generates what they want to hear. All
that's right. You'll be able to get an AI.
Well,
that's right. AI censor.
But that's technically what your algorithm is.
Yeah, that's right.
It shows you what you want to see. It tells you what you want to hear. I was the night that I was like the #1 trending thing on Twitter, night before last, I think it was. I texted my friend and I was like, yeesh. And he sent me a screenshot of his. I wasn't even top 25. He goes, this isn't, nobody cares, dude.
Right.
It's in your circle because it's your profile. You're going to hear
yeah, audiences enjoy things. True. Good point.
About it, obviously, but it's not to the extent that people think. So yes, I posted this misdirect of an apology, and it couldn't have went better. I was literally just sitting passenger seat in a car ride with my friends, and I just thought it would be a funny thing to do. It took me no more than 45 seconds to think of doing that. I went,
this guy's so quick-witted. I can't believe he's so smart and sharp.
I go, hey, is this funny? And he cracked up laughing, and I went, nah, fuck it.
You showed him the phone while he was driving? You realize that's illegal, right? Somebody's got to cancel this guy. Somebody's got to get him. Should I kill this guy? I'm not going to be able to. He'll kill me if I try.
I also thought that most of the outrage was happening just on Twitter and TikTok. Like Instagram's a far more personal app, I think. And so the fact that people even saw that and took it to other platforms, I thought was insane, but also proved my point even more that people who don't even like my comedy or have never even heard of me saw the outrage and my response to it and went, oh, that's actually funny.
Right.
So it actually gained me a lot of fans because most of the world, I would feel confident in saying the majority of people are sick of this shit.
Well, most people are actually hoping.
Sure, I am sick of cancel culture. I'm also sick of fucking people trying to get canceled so that they can talk about how they're sick of cancel culture. It's all fucking boring.
That a comedian will be funny rather than politically correct. Right, well, this is the problem. I think this is the misapprehension of people who apologize when they're accused, because your case is, well, perhaps you irritated some people by not apologizing, but first of all, there are people that you really don't mind irritating, and they weren't really irritated to begin with, so it's all a lie anyway.
Nor were they fans in the first place.
Right, exactly. And so when you apologize, in principle, you signal to those people that you've kowtowed and bowed down, but you forego the opportunity to appeal to a much broader realm of people, which you think would be more sensible if you were trying to protect or develop your career. The people who look at what you've done and think, oh, well, that's funny enough, so maybe I'll go check out this guy that I've never heard of. I'm sure you attracted like 10,000 fans for every person you turned off.
Oh, yeah. Analytically, I have gained more fans than I have lost across all platforms.
Crazy, bro.
The extremities of everybody involved in this outrage has been nothing but beneficial, because even if you didn't like the domestic violence joke that I got in trouble for, which is fair, even I think it's not the best joke I've ever written at all. It's not. It's probably the worst joke in the special, and that's fine. I do other things. I have plenty of other jokes that are for other people. The response being a perfect example of that. Even if people go, well, that's not funny, but that joke of his is. The extremities are so loud and so against each other that once one group of people.
Am I gonna stay the night cover? Yeah, I'm thinking I need to. Honestly, I mean, I'm so fucking funny. I'm such a good singer. I mean, that might not be your favorite joke song of mine, but it'll just make you want to look at other songs of mine. It's like the catalyst, guys.
Whatever you want to call them. But people love to make it about the left or the right or whatever. I'm a very unpolitical person. I don't really use those terms, so they might not be correctly used here. But say the left is so outraged about something, the right instinctually goes, you're being so ridiculous about this. If you hate this, I'm going to support this because I see nothing wrong with it. So
I think that's pathetic. Like, if you, what you're saying is pathetic. If, like, I agree, cancel culture's gone too far, sure. In this case, don't really see it. What you're saying right now is like, yeah, the fucking right, man. Like, they are always like, they're just instantly counter anybody who's upset. And it's like, is that a good thing to you? Like, that's just being a sheep in the opposite direction. Like, how is that like a positive to you? It just seems like fucking, it seems kind of weird. It just seems boring, like loser shit. But okay, cool, got it.
Doing that, they've completely balanced each other out.
Right. Well, right, and you probably brought your work to the attention of a whole demographic that wouldn't have necessarily known who you were.
So many people commenting, I didn't know who this kid was. I actually didn't like him before, but I like this joke that he told. Or I dislike you so much that the enemy of my enemy is now my friend.
Right.
All right, that was we watched that. That's all I have to say about that.